everybody, so today I am going to show you how to make clay out of recycled paper. So right now all I have in this bowl is about 10 sheets, regular printer paper size sheets of paper that I just ripped up into little pieces. I mean, you can see some are long, some are teeny tiny. Just rip it up the best you can, and then I let it sit in some boiling water for a few hours, maybe 4-ish hours, maybe 4 hours. You could do it overnight, you could do it one day and do this next step the next day, up to you. The reason I used boiling water is because it helps break down the fibers of the paper, but you could use cold water if you don't have any hot water at the moment. I used about 10 sheets of paper. You could use more, you could use less, but I wouldn't go too much less because you'll want to have a substantial amount of paper to work with. It doesn't have to be white printer paper, it could be any color paper. If you're using magazines, it might take a little longer for the paper to break down in the water, but you can still use it. It's just going to affect the color of your clay at the end. So the next step after letting the water and paper soak is to blend it up. I have this really cool blender that I can just stick right into the mixture. But if you don't have one of those, a regular blender will work fine. Do not do this without a parent present or their permission. Since my blender goes directly into the mixture, I'm going to put it in this really cool cup. I'm going to use a ladle. I'm just going to scoop. Ooh. And you want to have some of that liquid when you are blending it. I'm just going to use my hands actually. Put some of that in there. It doesn't matter if the paper was printed on or if you wrote on it, doesn't matter. Get some liquid in there so that we have something to blend with. All right, I'm going to plug in my blender. It's going to be loud. Okay, looking pretty good. Now what we want to do is squeeze some of this water out into this bowl because we don't need all of the liquid that's in here. Just squeeze it out very carefully. It might squirt you a little bit if you squeeze too hard. There we go. Very nice. You should be able to mold it a little bit. Now we should have these snowballs. They're pretty cool. You can break them up a little bit because we'll need to mix it with some flour and some water. No, that piece didn't get broken. All right. So take out any big chunks that didn't get blended up because those won't work very well. So now I've got this pile of mush. Okay, so now we are going to make the paste that we're going to mix into the paper to make it kind of stick together. All you need is, for my mixture, I'm using about half because I don't have that much paper pulp. So I'm going to do a half a cup of flour and a full cup of water. I'm putting it in a microwave safe dish because I'm going to heat it up to help it thicken up a little bit. Mix it around. You want to get all the lumps out so it's a smooth paste. It'll work the way it is right now, but it's a little bit stronger if we completely mix it and we heat it up a little bit. All right, I'm going to put this in the microwave for about 30 seconds and then check on it. So here it is after microwaving for 30 seconds. You can see it's getting a little bit thicker. I'm going to try and get out those lumps by pressing them on the side of my container. Just trying to even out the texture a little bit. And I'm going to microwave it again. Alright, here we are after another 30 seconds in the microwave. Ooh, it's getting better. Still some lumps, but that's okay. It'll all work out in the end. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly mix this into my paper pulp. Be careful because this is hot, but as we mix it in with this, it should cool down a little bit. I'm actually going to use my ladle. I'm just mixing it in. And you're going to want to keep doing this, adding little bits of the paste until your clay is moldable into a little shape. So it seems to me like my mixture is a little too wet now that I've been adding this into it, so I'm going to add a little bit of flour to try and help it hold together a little better. Just a little bit. Because remember, that's all we made this out of, was flour and water. So if there's too much water, add a little more flour and it'll bind together a little better. Because right now it's really squishy, which is good, which means I can shape it really well, but it doesn't seem to be holding together. It'll crumble in my hand a little bit. Yesterday I mixed in a tiny bit of vegetable oil, so we're going to try that. Might help it stop sticking to my hands. That actually seemed to work. Look at that. Now it's more like a dough. Right. Looks like we have a nice little ball of paper clay. So now let me show you how I'm going to use it. So before I started the video, I set up this muffin tin pan. Obviously it's pretty rusted and old. I don't usually use this for food. I try to use it for crafts like this. So my plan is to make little bowls. The reason I put the foil in here is so that when the bowls are finished drying in the oven, I can easily just lift them out. So all I did was line the little wells with some foil, and I'm going to use my clay to mold inside. You could do this on any oven-safe pan or bowl, really, but I would suggest doing the inside and not flipping it over and doing like the outside, because when it dries it will shrink and it will be a lot harder for you to get your project out. That's all I'm doing. Grabbing a little bit of my paper clay. And actually I'm going to make it into a ball. Okay. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to put that in there and I'm going to press it in. And maybe I have too much. I have to take a little bit out. Press that in. And I'm going to press it against the sides of this foil. You don't want it to be too thin because then it might crack. And what's nice about the foil, I can rotate the foil and not the pan. Just press it and kind of mold it into a little bowl shape. Now that edge is getting a little thin, so I might add a little bit to it. But you want to make sure you smooth out your seams because it might crack if you don't. Alright, that'll be a nice little bowl. And you can use that for plants, you could use it for candy, whatever you want. So I'm just using little bits of my clay to make lots of small projects. You could use all of your clay and make one giant project. But I don't know how well it will do if you're sculpting something. Like right now I'm molding. I'm not creating a different form. I'm just molding into another form. But if you're sculpting, it might be a little more difficult. I haven't tried it. You are welcome to. Let me know how it goes. You could also get creative and maybe make it a flower instead. Maybe I want to make little petals on the edge of my bowl. Maybe it's like a little flower bowl. Just make sure it's stuck on there really well. Now this clay is different than the clay we use at school because you can throw it in the oven and dry it out until it's nice and hard while it's still wet. You don't have to wait for it to dry out. In fact, you should definitely put it in the oven instead of letting it air dry. You can let it air dry, but it will take much longer and you'll get impatient like me and you'll probably try to take it out before it's dry and then you'll ruin your project. So I suggest putting it in the oven. It takes a while in the oven, but it takes a lot shorter than if you let it air dry. There. Oh, it almost kind of looks like a turtle too, like maybe the underside of a turtle, like maybe this is the belly. Maybe I could turn it over when I'm done and turn it into a turtle. How cute would that be? Maybe that's what I'll do. See, I don't have a plan, but I'm figuring it out as I go. Now I need to give my turtle a tail. There, now he's got a little tail. How cute. Alright, so I'm just going to fill up the rest of these wells and then we'll talk about putting them in the oven. Alright, so there are my projects in the oven. I'm going to close that up. And then up here, I'm going to just set my oven to warm. I have an electric oven, but it sets it to about 170 degrees. And I'm just going to leave it in there for as long as I can and check on it every 10 to 15 minutes. And it'll start to get white and it'll start to get very hard. So just check on it every once in a while and let me know how it goes. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.